Hi guys, my name is Rachel from the blog Budgets and Kale, and today I am doing a collab on scams. I'm here to tell you about a time where I and my mom got scammed, and then I'm going to tell you three scams that almost worked on my husband and I that we avoided. So first, the story for how my mom got scammed when I was younger. I was either in elementary or middle school. I don't remember that part, but I do remember we were at Applebee's and it was in Anchorage, Alaska, and I remember which location it was, but I'm not gonna say it because it was, like 10, 15 years ago at this point. So anyways, my mom and I were there for lunch. We had a really tasty meal. I do remember that. I remember we had a super nice waitress, but when it came to the end of the meal, my mom paid with a card. Now, she paid with either a credit card or debit card. I don't remember the logistics of that, but what I do remember is that my mom left a tip in cash on the table and she didn't have to sign for the meal, which is pretty strange at a restaurant, but my mom was kind of like, okay, it's not like we went to Applebee's often at all or anything like that. Well, it turned out said waitress had indeed gotten a receipt printed out, and what she went ahead and did was she wrote herself in a very large tip and signed it herself. So she pretended to be my mother, gave herself a big fat tip on the receipt printout, signed it, and then turned it in and processed it as if my mom had signed it, when in fact, my mom had left her cash on the table. Now, this has really stuck with me throughout my life. And first of all, I just want to say I don't think that this is a common thing at all. I think that servers and waitresses are like the best ever. I think this was just a one-off. This person really she was being terrible, basically, right? She broke the law. Well, anyways, I don't remember the logistics. I should really call and ask my mom what happened, but I believe that she fought the charge or whatever, but I don't remember. If I do remember, I will edit this somewhere and tell you what happened. But anyways, that is how my mom and I kind of got scammed, lost money that way. From that point on, basically the entire time of my life that I have been spending money and tipping and all of that, what I go ahead and do is if I tip in cash, I always make sure for one to still get a receipt, because I do typically pay with a high yield rewards credit card for travel. I will make sure that I write in the word cash on the tip line, still put in the full total, and then sign it. I do not leave it blank. I make sure to write something in there, whether it's a slash. Typically I like to write cash so that they don't think I'm a jerk, and then put cash and then the final total on there. Or if you're doing a small tip or I don't know, whatever, but just make sure that it's very clear that you have put some sort of a tip there and that the total's clear and that your name's on there. Now I want to talk about the 3 scams that we almost fell for in the last couple of years or so, and 2 of these have been within the last couple of months. So first of all, one of the scams my husband and I almost fell for is a rental property on Craigslist. Now, real quick, just gonna throw it out there, we have found places to live off of Craigslist before that have been perfectly fine. But there was a listing for a rental house that was a very, very good price when my husband and I were looking for our first rental together after we were moving out of my in-laws with our daughter. This was a house, which is something that was important to us. We really wanted to avoid an apartment if possible. By the way, we later found a duplex, which is amazing. But we saw this listing for a house that had a yard. It was a small house, but it was very well priced. And we were like, this is awesome. We went ahead and I emailed the person, and immediately I got, not immediately, but very shortly after, I got an email saying that the owner was like a doctor who was currently, or either a doctor or a pastor who was living abroad in Africa, and some big story about this mission work and how the current renters were still at the property and all of this stuff that I personally was like, wow, this is so cool that I get to rent from this person. And my in-laws kind of looked at me, looked at my husband, and were like, that sounds like a scam. And we were naive. At this point, we had only rented from local landlords at our college town, and it was very straightforward and easy, and we had honest people to trust. We didn't have any kind of reason not to trust someone online with rental stuff. So we're like, what, really? And we were disappointed because it was this house and we were going to be able to afford a house, not just a duplex or a fourplex or something like that. So we were kind of upset, actually. I remember we were like, they just don't believe it. And then all it took was a really quick Google of the email that the person responded back from with the word scam in Google, and there was tons of warnings online. So that's what I encourage you to do. If you're finding something that sounds like it's too good to be true off of Craigslist or other online things, and especially if it's warning you not to look at the tenants, or go to the current location, or they're saying they're out of the country, or any mention of a wire transfer, anything like that, make sure you Google their email address followed by the word scam, and that way you can see if they've been reported, because we almost fell for that. Quite frankly, if we hadn't talked to my in-laws, we probably would have responded to that, which is kind of embarrassing to admit now, but in our young 22, 23-year-old minds, that's what we thought, which is crazy to think that only 3 years ago we might have done that. So yeah, that was the first one. Now the second one was one that we knew might be coming. And the reason I say that is it has to do with our mortgage. And our title company, when we signed on closing day and all of that stuff, warned us that there might be scams that come to us about our house insurance or something to do with our mortgage that basically just wouldn't make sense, and they would ask for money right away. And sure enough, that ended up happening multiple times. Super annoying. In fact, we actually still get ones about it. And if I'm ever really concerned, like, okay, this looks real, I will call our mortgage company and ask them. And yeah, so I would say, thankfully, our title company warned us about that, but those are some scams that we have also avoided. And being first-time homeowners, and we wouldn't have known what to do, I think, had the title company not warned us. So that's something to think of if there's anything that comes to you with homeowners insurance, mortgage insurance, that seems like, whoa, and it's asking you to pay or asking you to file or something. Maybe double check with the source that you have before considering doing that. And the last one, technically, I don't know for sure if this is a scam or not, but I have a gut feeling that it was. And that was a remote job for me. So if you guys don't know, I have been freelance writing since June of last year. And I do write for a couple of fairly big clients. Like the biggest company that I write for consistently and have contracts with is NerdWallet. And so a lot of people know that, and people have been able to find me as a writer that way. And I've had a couple of different companies contact me to write for them, which is amazing and I appreciate. Well, this one company, and I'm not going to name them in case they are real, but they were very flattering. They reached out to me over LinkedIn, so social network, but still a professional social network. So I definitely thought it was real and everything. They wanted to interview me with HR, and I went ahead and did an HR-based interview, and then they wanted me to interview with the person who would be running the website. And this is where I kind of want to get into it and say this is where it started to seem weird for me. They wanted me to become one of the main writers for a website that's not currently live. Then I talked with the guy who was going to be running it, and he was telling me all these things, how he had been able to bring up all these other websites from 0 to like 10 million plus viewers a month very, very quickly. He knew he would be able to do that again. He knew he had investors that would be willing to put in. They really wanted to be able to say they had a NerdWallet contributor specifically, all these different things for different angel investors and their seed funding and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like I know that this could be normal in the startup world. I'm not as familiar with it. I was kind of like, okay. And then I realized over the phone, he hadn't given me any examples. He had kept saying with so many other websites, didn't give me actual concrete examples. All I knew is this is a website that literally doesn't exist and they want me to start writing. Sounds like it could be cool. We talked rates and the rates were all working out. Well, then I kind of looked in more into the company. They seemed real, like they had a social media presence, but a very, very small one, especially for the volume that they were saying of business they were saying they were doing. Then I noticed they had 2 headquarters, one in the United States and one overseas. I'm not going to say what country or anything, and I want to be careful here when I'm saying this, but something about the city made me go, like, is that normal for someone to be pushing for a US-based market and they're writing about personal finance and travel rewards? And I wasn't so sure. It just was another kind of, it was like a yellow flag. It wasn't quite a red flag at this point. I'd only had yellow flags, right? Well, then I talked again to who they said was their HR manager, and it took them a while to get back to me. And I actually followed up with them, and then she says, oh, I either forgot your contract or something where it was like, I'll send it you over right away. And it took a few hours. Well, then I get my contract. And there were a lot of typos in the contract. Like there was already a couple of typos in the email, but there were typos within the contract itself. And they misspelled the name of the website that I was supposed to be supposedly writing for and becoming like the main writer for. And I was just like, if this is supposed to be a legal document offering me employment, like, wouldn't you be a little bit more careful? That is when the first big red flag struck when I was reading through the contract. Then I noticed that the rates were lower than what me and the other guy had discussed. And I was kind of like, okay, so that's different. And I just kind of like scratched my head a little bit. And then I went back and looked at the email again from this HR manager, because I'll admit, I kind of just jumped into the contract when I opened that email up because I just wanted to see what that said. That's when I started catching typos and I was confused. Then I read her email and I realized they said that I would do a month's worth of work at a time, and then I would get paid the following month on the first of the month. So they were telling me up front I was going to have to work for at least a month and then hopefully get paid, or even potentially that I would miss the first pay cycle. So that, to me, that tells me if I started working January 1st, I could work January 1st through January 31st and not get paid until March 1st, which is crazy, especially for a month's worth of work and as much as they were asking for. Then I noticed they also were talking about wire transfer in their form of payment. Like not just external fund transfer, but a wire transfer. And I was just confused. I'm like, okay, this is another huge red flag. And then they also wanted me to fill out an I-9 on the spot. Now, having an I-9 is a tax form in the US if you aren't familiar. Getting an I-9 isn't odd. You have to do that as a freelancer or use an EIN number. But just for you guys that don't know, it involves your either social security number or EIN number. So I'm like, okay, they're telling me it could take them months to pay me. There's misspellings in this contract. And now suddenly they want my social security number and all my info. That's when I had all the red flags. I emailed them back immediately and said, I'm sorry, but I'm no longer interested in this opportunity. Thank you for considering me. I left it professional, but I was basically just like, nope, we're done. We're done here. And I did get a phone call from someone supposedly with the company asking me why. And I did go ahead and tell them there were typos in the contract and some things I wasn't comfortable with. And I just left it at that. And she just said, thank you. Okay, bye. And that was it. So it was very odd, but I can't guarantee it was a scam, but deep down I feel that it was. So if you are considering freelance work or you find an opportunity online, be aware, think of some red flags. Be aware. I think it is very important to trust your gut. You probably are on the right track if you think something is a scam. That said, I've worked with a really amazing freelance clients. If you've ever wanted to know about freelance writing, you can shoot me an email or comment below. Yeah, so I hope that this kind of gives you ideas of some scams to watch out for, and hopefully you learn something valuable. Make sure you check out everyone else's videos down below. I will make sure to link everyone involved in this collab down below. I know that I was approached by Allie of Owen Your Future, who I met at FinCon, and they're great, and I was very excited to join her with this. I also know that Jen from the Budget Bounce is involved with this. I will make sure to just tag everyone down below. So go ahead and check out their videos. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at Budgets and Kale, and my blog is budgetsandkale.com. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, I hope you learned things, can avoid some scams, and have a great day. Bye.